This video shows you how to add fractions with sums greater than 2. We're taking the same ideas that we had before and we're applying them to larger numbers. So if we had something like 2 and 1/5 plus 1 1/2, remember that we want to break it down a little bit more. So really we're going to take it and make it 2 plus 1, so we do the whole numbers first, plus 1/5, plus 1/2, there should be a plus sign there. So then we have 3 plus 1/5 plus 1/2. So when we look at that, 3 plus 1/5 plus 1/2, okay, we can do our common denominator, which will be 10, and multiply it by 2 over 2, which is our fractional 1, to get my denominator of 10. So I have 2/10 plus 1/2. 2 times 5 is 10, so I need 5/5. 5/10. So 2/10 plus 5/10 equals 7/10. Don't forget your 3 from before. So when we look at that, it will be 3 plus 7/10, which is 3 7/10. We can also solve this problem using a number line. Still, we're going to break it down to the whole numbers first. And I'm going to 5 because I'm rounding 2 1/5 up to 3 and 1 1/2 up to 2. So I start at 0. I'm doing my first 2 from my whole number here. Then I'm adding 1 from my second whole number, adding 1/5, and then 1/2, which shows me that I'm approximately between 3 and 4. In this case, I would use the number line more as an estimate so that I know about the right range, but still use my fractional ones to multiply across. If you'd like to break it down into the tenths because that's easier for you, go for it. Let's look at another problem. 2 2/3 plus 5 2/5. Now, if we have a problem like this, we can look at it and try to estimate about where it's going to be. Now we know that 2 2/3 is greater than 2, and 5 2/5 is less than 6. So we can estimate that it's going to be in the range close to 8, using that 2 and using that 6. Okay? And from here, we're going to say 2 2/3. I'm going to round that up to 3. And 5 2/5. 2/5, we're not really sure exactly where it is. The way that I think about it, half of 5, I know that's 2 1/2. So it's about 5 1/2. So it can kind of go either way. So in this case, I'm going to round it up to 6. And 3 plus 6 is 9. So I'm going to say that this problem is in the range of 8 to 9 instead of 7 to 8 or 9 to 10. Okay, so I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm working with this problem. After I do my estimate, I'm going to solve it like I solved any of the other problems. And I want you to take a moment to solve it on your own, and then I'll show you how I do it. So here's how I solved it. When I did it, I rearranged it so it's 2 plus 5, so I had those whole numbers first again, and then added my fractions. When I multiplied out the fractions, I used 5/5 as my fractional 1 to multiply it by 2/3 to find that it is 10/15. And then I took 2/5, multiplied by 3/3 to have a product of 6/15. I added those two together and found that I have 16/15. So I brought down my whole number from above and said I have 7 plus the 16/15. 16/15 reduces or simplifies to 1 1/15 plus that 7, so I have 8 1/15. I'd like you to try the next problem on your own. 3 5/7 plus 6 2/3. Then I'll show you how I did it. Okay, I solved this just like last time. My whole numbers plus my fractions. Looking for that fractional 1 for both problems. Adding them together, 29 21st plus 9. 3 plus 6 is 9. Okay, so simplifying, I have 1 8 21st plus 9. 9 plus 1 again is 10, and 8 21sts. Now I want to add a quick note that some of you have caught on to and some of you haven't. If we have something like 1/2 plus 7/8, you can change it so that you are doing 1/2 times 8/8 to get 8/16. Or you can say, I know that 2 already goes into 8, so I'm not going to modify my 7/8. Instead, I'm going to modify 1/2 and multiply that by 4/4, which is 4/8, which is the same as 8/16, or 4/8. Now, if we do 16ths, I will need to take my 7/8 and multiply that by 2/2 to get 14/16. And then I will need to add them. While if I do my 4/8, I can just add 7/8 and be done with 11/8 after, and then simplify it to 1 3/8. So either method, this first one where you look for 16 as the common denominator, or the bottom one where you use 8 as a common denominator, that's your choice, but make sure that you understand why you're doing what you're doing.